Welcome back, everyone, to the Kart Rider Drift League. My name is William Cho, joined by Peter today, and we welcome you to the KDL with greetings from the WAM Association. Both of us. Can you guess what the WAM Association is? It's WWAM.
You caught me off guard with that. I wasn't expecting this one, Will.
We want ace matches. That's what we want, all right?
Okay.
You can get behind that, right? You can get behind that.
I thought I was missing something for a second. I was like, WAM, something with racing. What is it?
No, we want ace matches as we enter the playoff stage here for KDL. But let's take a look at the overview of how things have panned out so far in the KDL just to catch everyone up to date. Of course, we started with 8 teams, and Peter, we're down to the final 4.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long ride coming to the postseason, but it's definitely been an event-filled one. So many stories that were clashed. And finally, the 3 pro teams in GWANGDONGFREECS, Liv, Sandbox, and ROX didn't make it up. Aura, out of the amateur teams, also, they set a new reputation for themselves this season.
Yep, I mean, they've been looking good. A lot of people have been praising them, and they finally do make it in fact, into the top 3 even. And we'll talk about how the seeding matters for that later on as we get into the matches. But here you go, GWANGDONGFREECS not able to finish that elusive 7-0 record, eventually actually taking a loss to Aura in their last team match. Meanwhile, ROX able to barely get through, of course, with their incredible 5 ace match wins from Jong, single-handedly putting them into the playoffs here.
That's a really funny thing because GWANGDONGFREECS and Liv Sandbox, we absolutely expected them to be on top, but now we're finally here, and they're going against each other, followed by Aura and ROX, which we're going to start with in the lower bracket semifinals.
Yeah, here's the thing, and I think a lot of people who have been keeping up with any of these teams and players will agree, is that it really isn't a surprise if any 4 of these teams wins, not only today, but even gets to the grand finals and takes a victory as well. Now, of course, statistically, GWANGDONGFREECS and Liv Sandbox a bit more favored, just given the composition of their roster and what they've shown so far, but Aura and ROX, they aren't any pushovers. There's definitely some crazy wild cards on that end as well.
Yeah, I think it especially helps that before we got into the postseason, we got to see Aura taking down GWANGDONGFREECS, finally giving them their first ever loss, where also we've had ROX taking a huge upset victory over Liv Sandbox. So they're really showing their prowess coming into the postseason.
Yeah, well, let's take a look at some of these matches. We've got a little bit of data compiled for everyone to get everyone prepped for both of the matches today. Let's take a look at the first match a bit closer. It's going to be Aura going up against ROX Esports. Now, of course, all of these teams have played against each other. And the last time these 2 teams met, Aura had a pretty handy win. I believe basically a 6-0 track score, 3-0 in both speed mode and item mode.
Yeah, but ROX, this is a new ROX we're seeing now. Up till the end, we were saying item mode for ROX, big concern. But if they beat Liv Sandbox, the best of the league in it, what's the new ROX going to do?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, whenever the data's ready, if we can pull those up, we have quite a bit ready for you guys. But yeah, here we go. Just overall how these teams have played against each other. Now you can see there when they faced off against each other, it was Aura taking the win. But as you mentioned, Peter, I mean, that was kind of in between all of these ace wins that ROX had, and they've been able to string together 3 afterwards, even including against, you know, the monsters, Liv Sandbox. So, you know, have they improved and maybe even shored up some of their weaknesses there? Meanwhile, Aura, they proved that the improvements are there. They made their progress towards their last win against GWANGDONGFREECS.
Yeah, you can definitely see that in their round win score, +7, +18, opposed to +1, -5. It is the story of a team that's been having a great teamwork so far, whereas ROX, they've had 1 shining player, and we're trying to see if the other team members can also match up to his performance.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's an incredible story in ROX Esports with Jong being this super hard carry. Obviously, I mean, already setting, you know, kind of this record of playing 5 different ace matches against 5 different teams and 5 different racers, winning all of them, and therefore single-handedly, you know, bringing them into the playoffs. And Jong here, you know, challenging who's next, right? Who wants to go up against me next? But the thing is, first of all, you have to get to that ace match to even try to hope for a Jong victory.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a tall task to ask for, but they managed to do it 5 times and made it to the postseason, so you definitely got to give some magic credits to ROX. Maybe they just have what it takes, and his opponents were no, you know, newbies to the league. Insu, Speed, Acid Flight Ding, and Yoon. All these players have been hyped about and talked in the KDL.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially the fact that, you know, he was able to beat Insu, and Insu being this player who is able to play, you know, quite aggressively even in 1v1s. He's kind of known for that, where he's able to really mess with you even in a 1v1 setting. He's willing to take risks, and Jong actually shows up and says, no, I can do one better. right? And he takes down Insu. That was quite an impressive feat. He even actually, had one of the ace matches where he was like so far ahead that he didn't even give a single draft over to his opponent. Things like that. So the big question for ROX today is going to be, can they get to the ace match at all? And if that happens, can Jung get another victory?
Yeah, I mean, Jung, if he gets another one today, then he's just going to keep stockpiling his record. And so far in the KDL preseason, this is the man to beat in the ace match. And if he just continues to set even a more impressive flawless record, we may as well give him the whole title as maybe the best ace match player ever.
I mean, yeah, I think so, and that'd be an incredible title to lead with here in Preseason 1. Again, we're just in Preseason 1 so far. Now, we've been actually tallying up what the viewers have been predicting for this matchup. I believe this is all coming in from the Africa TV platform, so if you want to put in your vote as well, go over and check that out. But it's actually pretty close. I'm actually a little surprised about this.
I am very surprised, honestly, because I did think that Aura would be the favorites, logically. If you take out your emotion, you're like, yeah, Jung's a great player.
Are you calling ROX esports fans emotional? Is that what's going on? That they only believe in their hearts and not their heads? Is that what's going on here?
I am actually saying that.
Okay.
Because so far, Aura, they've had such a consistent performance in both speed and item mode.
I mean, we see the other teams' predictions as well, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
the teams agree with me.
Yeah, and I would agree as well. And I think this is purely off of not just the scores they had, because obviously the match scores is the same between both teams. It's 5 wins, 2 losses in terms of overall matches. But the fact that Aura, the fashion in which they've been winning, has looked a lot more composed, a lot more commanding as well. So pretty curious. So the fans a little split from the other players and other teams, but we'll get to find out who takes that one now. Of course, after that, we've got 2 matches today. We'll talk about match 2 a little bit right now as well. This is kind of the cream of the crop, the rematch between KWANGDONGFREECS and Live Sandbox.
Yeah, KWANGDONGFREECS, they were able to take a victory over Live Sandbox, but the one big thing of that day was the injury that Live Sandbox had. The roster all of a sudden went to a switch up, but now the roster is back that they started with. So now, Live Sandbox at their full strength, what can they show us?
Yeah, I mean, because it even went to an ace match then, right? When they had to play with only 4 players, Jimin having to come into that speed mode, Neil having to play in the item mode for Live Sandbox. But now they're back to the full roster of 5. Now looking at their records, I mean, no surprise here. Both teams have had quite the impressive runs here. Now, the only matches that Sandbox has lost was actually in these ace matches, right?
Yep.
One was against KWANGDONGFREECS, World versus Insu. And then it was actually Insu versus Jung as well over against ROX esports. So, I mean, Sandbox, again, even though they have an extra loss compared to the Freaks, they aren't necessarily objectively weaker.
For sure. I mean, Live Sandbox definitely has to be the top opponent that comes to your mind when you think of a team that could take out such a giant like KWANGDONGFREECS. And honestly, what a matchup. I have no prediction for this one because it can go either way based on players' forms.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. Now, quite frankly, KWANGDONGFREECS, they did lose against Aura in their last team match, but I gotta say they looked a bit shakier than usual that day. We'll see, if that was just kind of a one-off fluke, but you can see how their ace matches have looked so far. KWANGDONGFREECS, I mean, we always hail them as this team of 4 aces, 4 runners, and they've proven it so far. World and Sungbin both entering different ace matches, both bringing home a victory. Meanwhile, I mean, Live Sandbox, Neil and Insu, while they have so much history as these great runners, as these great racers, they both lost their ace match.
But in one of their losses in ace matches, it was against Jung. So you have to wonder, do you give them some credit? Is Jung that good that it kind of like made Live Sandbox look a little bit worse?
Yeah, could be. I mean, Jung could be an anomaly, of course. Curious to see what the viewers are thinking so far about this one. Let's see if we can bring that up. What does the tally say so far? Okay, leaning towards Live Sandbox, though, but very close. Now, I think this one being 50-50 is not surprising, but I'm a little surprised that it's leaning towards Live Sandbox.
I am siding for blue team as well. Live Sandbox
you're taking your pick. All right.
My choice because I feel like they have an edge over KWANGDONGFREECS in the item mode.
Yes.
And as long as they can secure the win in the speed mode and not go down to the ace match where they show their weakness, it should be a relatively clean 2-0 sweep, but that's, of course, talking ideally.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we'll have to just wait and see. Now, we'll take a look at what the teams have thought so far. All right, ROX and Sensation saying that they think it's actually going to be ROX thinks it's a 2-0 win for KWANGDONGFREECS. That's pretty daring. Sensation saying it's going to go down to an ace match. And Planet and Finale as well, both predicting ace matches here.
I don't know about that one.
Yeah, you don't think it's going to go down to an ace match?
No, I just mean that because they lost in ace matches so far, results and statistically speaking, it's not like on tune, but these teams have faced each other so many times, and they must have identified the players of Live Sandbox to be really strong individually.
Yeah, I mean, especially Neil and Insu, obviously, we all know what those two can do individually. They've proven themselves in the solos in the past as well. And I think they've already both proven kind of their research and prep in Kart Rider Drift, as well as kind of these leading pioneers. So curious to see. Now, here's the thing, bottom line, as viewers and commentators, we all win if both of these matches go to ace matches.
Right.
But I think on the team's end, obviously, they still have a couple more matches to go before they can be crowned the first winner here in Preseason 1 of the KDL. So I'm sure they would want to try to avoid that. But looks like we're getting ready here to kick off the playoffs of the KDL team matches.
I am super excited about our opening match, ROX and Aura. It's definitely, like we said earlier, Aura favored, but ROX is having that super crazy win streak right now from the ace matches, and you never know what can happen to this team.
Yeah, now going back to that match one, like you mentioned, Peter, I mean, Aura versus ROX. We'll take a look at Aura's roster here first as they enter the stage. One of the players actually almost kind of toppling over there on the side. Definitely don't want that before your semifinal race here, but the thing about Aura is that if you've been following Kart Rider in general, I mean, you looked at the individual power of this roster, they were not meant to be ignored, right? They have their history, especially in terms of both speed and item mode. I mean, players like Hero, of course, kind of learning under the old Emperor Hojin back on his previous team. Meanwhile, you've got the duo of Nock and Tech, who have been such a commanding force in item mode as well, and this is a well-rounded roster here.
For sure. I mean, like I said, unlike ROX, Aura, they haven't really shown too many weaknesses outside of the fact, are they actually the best of the best at both speed and item? And honestly, if they can prove that against ROX, I think that Aura is just going to have a fantastic time moving on. But of course, if you're a ROX fan, you're still waiting for that ace match.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing is that obviously, even if you're a ROX fan, you would, while it would feel nice to have a 2-0 win, I think you're also kind of like, well, it is exciting to watch Jung go into the ace match, see how far he can get. So we'll see how that plans out. Looks like Dutzy coming in with a little bit of a prop here.
Nice.
Okay, just trying to have a little bit of extra showmanship here against their opponents. Aura, Jung, of course, in the center. And I gotta also imagine what it's like to be his teammates, right? If you're a player on ROX, while you're happy that you're here, while you're happy you're in the playoffs, it also has to add some pressure that, like, well, we've always had to rely on Jung, right? We do want to try to get there on our own as well.
For sure, and keep in mind that these two teams are actually fighting for tournament life. If they lose, they are out. So it is incredibly important that they show and prove today. As we take a look at Aura, a good description of them would be they have a solid speed match and item match, as we discussed, and their cheerfuls are saying, we are Aura, we have the Aura.
Yeah, and then the bottom side in Korean said, what's the MBTI of the best in Kart Rider Drift? Obviously, they're trying to say it's Aura, A-U-R-A. Not sure what that would stand for in an MBTI personality test. But, I mean, Aura, they've looked impressive and just kind of taunting ROX, saying, do you want to get crushed or do you want to simply lose? Either way, you're going to lose one way or another. So Aura quite confident in their playoff match today.
Absolutely showing no sign of wanting to get that defeat today, and I'm sure that they're definitely confident. They know the stats support them. Whereas for ROX, you have to wonder, will Dutzy be able to step up today and be that consistent player they need to try to contest the 1-2?
Yeah, I mean, even in speed mode, right? Jung has always had a pretty high finish, but Dutzy was the other one that they've always hoped for. You can see it in the standings there as well, their average rank. Oh, ROX with no cheerful say, oh, serious business. Okay.
Yeah, just some wholesome waves.
Yeah,
I like it.
Fancy.
Good old-fashioned.
All right. And then just saying, you know, we can't stop here. We're still growing. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I think a lot of hype behind this team. And I think one of my eyes actually on Vega, right? He was another player coming over from the KRPL along with Jung over from Kart Rider Rush Plus that had a lot of hopes behind him. And quite frankly, he hasn't really performed up to the potential where he's been a reliable force even in the middle of the pack, you know, or at the end of the pack in providing support for the rest of the team.
Yeah, and we have ROX coming in just saying, you're at the level of pro teams. Here comes the real pro team.
Well, that's mean. Just because you've got funding from a pro organization, that's mean, ROX.
They're definitely stepping it up with their taunts and disses as the seasons go on, making sure that they're not getting one-upped on.
No, definitely not. And I think that's the biggest thing is that we're only nearing the end of Preseason 1, right? We've still got the rest of the year ahead of us, and both Aura and ROX have been showing progress. Now, the big question for today is who's been improving faster, right? Who's been growing just one step ahead of each other? Because if they win, they get to go on to face the next team who will be the loser of match 2. But if they lose, like you said, Peter, they're out. And ladies and gentlemen, we are now in best of 7s, of course, in the playoffs, and we actually get to keep track of the picks and bans first. Now, here's where their seeding matters, right? Aura was seeded number 3 on the leaderboard, so they had choice of priority. They're going to decide to choose speed priority, so they get their first pick, and it's going to be World Tour Terracotta Twister.
No surprise here if you take a look at the percentages of the win rates. 75% for Aura, while only 25% for ROX. It is definitely a really good strategic choice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised about this at all. I mean, this is a track where ROX has definitely struggled quite a bit. ROX going to answer back with their own choice of New York Rally. You know, just a bit of a higher rate as well. But I think the other thing about New York Rally is you can try to, you know, avoid a lot of the contact, right? Play your own build and just try to race through honest kart rider and try to get a better finish. And then they're going to actually snipe out Rickety Rails, getting it banned out away from Aura. Now, this is interesting because I believe that's a track that both teams have had targeted against them in terms of other teams banning it away from them.
Those rails are too rickety, man. What can we say? Even we don't like playing them sometimes because it's a massive skill check with the amount of turns that come in. And they're very sharp turns at that, too, as we see another ban coming in from Aura this time. Village Bayside Bridge Run, definitely a track we have seen play through a lot, and another very difficult one.
Yeah, now Village Bayside Bridge Run, an interesting fact about that for Aura is they have not played that track at all so far in the KDL Preseason 1. So clearly just wanting to avoid that, you know, for whatever reason. I mean, it's not a hard track, and in some ways that makes it a little tougher to compete on. We'll see how that comes into play. Now, Desert Construction Chaos, a track where both teams have only played once. I know the percentage says they have 0% win rate, but they've only played it once each, you know, 1 loss each, so we can't read too much into that one.
Yeah, Desert Construction Chaos, this is one where if you get drifted into the wall, you pretty much lose all momentum, as we see now. ROX picking up Mine Gold Rush. They have a 100% win rate on it, which is definitely a stat you want to have.
Ooh, Mine Gold Rush. I know, like, Dutzy and Jung, they've both looked very good on that one. Curious to see how that plays out. But we can already tell, both of the tracks that ROX has selected, they are, again, some of the wider tracks, right? Where you're able to try to avoid some of that conflict, have a little bit more of maneuverability, where you can go around, work on your own builds. Maybe they've, you know, crafted some builds for each other where they can avoid that and still be able to get into certain positions to guarantee a win.
Ooh.
Now, we're looking at the second round of bans, and I was surprised that Zigzag hadn't been picked yet. ROX loves to play this track. Their win rate on it is not spectacular, but they love to play it. Jung is always so reliable on it, and they left it open. Eventually, Aura's going to ban that out just in case.
Yeah, I like the ban there. It definitely came just in time before ROX can pick it up. Mine Winding Slopes getting banned out by ROX, and of course now we see the pick for Aura as well. Glacier Extreme Stadium, a really popular pick for speed, and both teams boasting a pretty nice win rate for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is just one of those tracks where most teams feel fairly confident on it. It just depends on, you know, what have you researched, how much have you counter-strategized the opponents as well, in terms of do you really go for it as a priority pick or do you kind of let it slide until the end? Of course, now with a best of 7, I mean, we are going to practically see almost every track in either a pick or ban, only one track being left behind at the end.
Interestingly enough, we do see Desert Pharaoh's Pass coming in, picked up by ROX, which the stats don't really support ROX wanting that, but obviously they haven't shown their full potential in this track yet, so I'm sure Aura is looking at this and feeling a bit, you know, nervous.
Yeah, Pharaoh's Pass, kind of a weird one. They lost to Planet on that one, actually. Only played it once on the side of ROX. So maybe just, you know, considering that that was just a fluke, maybe they've prepped something else separately. And then we go to Boom Hill Tunnel. Aura 1-0 on that one, ROX 2-0. So both teams haven't gotten a loss yet on that track if it gets to round 7. But that was the last choice here coming in from Aura. So overall, Peter, I'm thinking if you look at it on paper, Aura gets kind of the picks and bans they want, that they expect. But I think that's what's scary about ROX, right? If they're going for some of these picks that maybe we didn't expect or not the order we expected it in, clearly they've been prepping that. Okay, we're actually going to see the item picks and bans right now as well. That way, once we start the races, we don't have to take any further breaks. We just keep jumping right in.
Yeah, and this is the really important part for ROX now, because ROX, they've only won a handful of tracks in the item mode, so we might see a repeat of the tracks they've won in so far, the first pick coming in on the Mine Magma Cavern.
Okay, all right. Now, here's the thing. I don't know how much to read into the item mode picks and bans here for ROX specifically, just because we've never really, looked into it too much to begin with, right? That was not a spotlight of their career so far. Curious to see. I mean, we can already tell just from the tracks that each team has played, and one on Aura, obviously, having a bit more to show off in both Magma Cavern and Polar Halfpipe.
Yeah, Polar Halfpipe being a track that really prioritizes teamwork and communication, because when you get near the finish line, there's a lot of nuances that you have to play around specifically, especially with the items. This is where the interactions start to really matter with the boosters and magnets. It's not just about using it on the first place. You can use it in different strategic ways, like getting to the shortcut. So I like that pick, maybe identifying ROX as a weaker teamwork.
All right, and then Cogwheel Crush being banned out, no surprise there. One of the more reliable wins here for ROX. Of course, that was one of the tracks they did win in their item mode against Live Sandbox as well, which eventually took them to that ace match for Jung to bring home the victory.
Yep, Cogwheel Crush, definitely a track that ROX, you don't want to give it to them. And ROX taking out Forest Mushroom Caves, which is another track that we've definitely seen Aura have some success in.
All right, now curious in the next round of picks, ROX going to keep that priority as the blue side team here, since Aura selected speed mode priority. World Tour London Night. All right, neither team having great success on this one, but ROX, what have you built up here? This is one of those tracks where, I mean, the way that you use, if you want to rely on the kind of meta-typical boost and magnet, right there at the end, there's a couple bumps that you need to watch out for in terms of your timing and the corner as well. It's a very wide 90-degree turn. So in which order you use your items can really make or break who crosses that finish line first.
Yes, and now we see right now Mine Motherlode coming in for Aura, and I must say Motherlode is definitely not an easy track. Not only are there items, you have to constantly be wary of the shortcuts. They make a big difference. And when you're trying to take that shortcut, if you get hit with a missile, that could be completely the end to your momentum. So a lot of diversity on that track.
All right, just a couple more tracks left here. Istanbul Sunset Plaza going to be banned out next from Aura. Take that one out. Obviously one of the more wider tracks, even within item mode here, fairly standard. Just doesn't want to have to deal with that one against ROX Esports. Now, curious to see what goes on. I mean, in terms of ban priority for Aura, I mean, you can't really choose one or the other in terms of Cogwheel and Istanbul. I think they just kind of went for the ones that were left because the biggest priority for ROX was always going to be Magma Cavern, and obviously they picked that first, having that item mode priority.
Yep, and now ROX. You have to wonder, because Aura has had 6 out of 7 wins of sets in item mode, what do you ban when they have so many success and so little failures? And that's going to be Desert Pharaoh's Pass. We haven't necessarily seen Aura lose there, so that is going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, I mean, 3-1 records so far in item mode here for Pharaoh's Pass here from Aura. Yeah, I mean, pretty much all wins though, right? And ROX just saying, all right, well, that's been left open. You guys haven't picked it. We're not going to take any risks. We're going to leave that to be banned. Now, this is what's interesting to me. I mean, in terms of priority pick, Aura, London has been a priority pick for them. So has Pharaoh's Pass. The fact that they didn't pick those early, in fact, ROX actually picks London Knight earlier in round 3, and then eventually has to ban on Pharaoh's Pass. Curious, I mean, Aura perhaps expecting those to be banned out ahead of time, right? And preparing some of these other tracks. So curious to see what the preparation is here.
Now, we do see Gangnam Streets being picked up by ROX, and Gangnam Streets is a very wide track.
Super wide.
So it is lining up with the logic kind of that ROX does prefer the wider tracks, and Aura was trying to ban those out. But you can't ban them all.
Yeah, you can't ban them all. And in item mode, I mean, one of the reasons is it just kind of leaves more room to be open. You don't have to have very specific builds. You can always try to rely on whatever you've got in terms of if you're able to keep the lead as well. And the way you use those boosts and magnets can be a bit more straightforward on the wider tracks. But we'll see how things go through. Now, Glacier Icebreaker Pass coming out from Aura. Again, that's one of the tracks where there's that narrow tunnel at the end, right? And shields and barriers, those can kind of make or break the difference. You can't just rely on the magnet and boost combo to cross the finish line.
Definitely a lot of emphasis on teamwork tracks for Aura, and now ROX rounding it out with Factory, Brody's Gloom, And they definitely have found success in the factory track so far, which is the new Tema coming into KDL. And honestly, I really like that last pick from them.
Okay, so here's just an overview of how things have gone through so far in the picks and bans. This is speed mode. Overall, looking at it on paper, I would say Aura looking a bit favored, or at least getting perhaps the expected tracks somewhat predictable, but you got to also expect, if it is predictable, ROX, what have you prepared? Why are you not throwing any crazy curveballs here?
I mean, that is definitely a good point. You would assume that ROX having that disadvantage slightly, they would want to throw in their hidden trump cards here, bring out some crazy strats, but it's been pretty typical so far.
Yeah, and then we're going to see, of course, I mean, ROX taking out both Rickety Rails and Winding Slopes. No surprise there. Aura, the fact that they were willing to leave Zigzag out, it really makes me think that they simply just don't want to ever play Bayside Bridge Run. Right. They're still avoiding that track for the entirety of Preseason 1, so that just shows us a little bit more insight into Aura's mindset.
Bayside Bridge Run definitely is a track that brings a lot of diversity to the table, as we saw some fans there and a player for ROX as well. And of course, but now we are ready for our track number 1 in speed, World Tour Terracotta Twister.
And the race begins. Track 1 out of 7 between Aura and ROX.
Here we go. We see Hero completely in the lead right now. C's having fantastic blocks on Jung. Jung trying to come back in with the tighter lines.
Yeah, C's has actually been one of the more crucial players here as we see some collisions over on the side of Aura. He's either always been playing second fiddle for Hero to set him up like we see right now.
Oh my, C's!
Oh wow, C's actually combating 2 to 3 people, but this is what he's good at. If he's not setting up for Hero, he's actually getting set up by Knock. He's always been that linchpin that Aura has wanted for these 1-2 finishes.
Look, you look at Hero, he's so far ahead, and C's once again trying to play the block game of 3 people spell. He fell behind. ROX completely out of their game today.
Yeah, Vega hitting a bump there. I've actually seen him hit that bump a couple times in the past as well. On Terracotta Twister, always trying to find a new build or something like that on the side of Vega, but not able to keep up his speed. Now it's up to Dutzy and Spell. I mean, sure, we can always rely on Jung eventually catching up somehow, but definitely not to Hero with the way things are right now on the track.
You can see C's is not even playing sweeper anymore. He's trying to maintain that 1-2 until a member of ROX gets close enough, which is when I'm sure he will press that decelerate button. Dutzy now getting pretty close, but still out of draft range.
Oh, and look at this. I was looking at it on the map earlier, but Knock has been keeping Jung tied up at the back, not allowing Jung to catch up and try to play support or even get into the top 3 here. Jung, he's not going to have much of a chance. C's nice recovery. He's going to stay alive. He's still in contention against Dutzy and Spell.
Yeah, C's almost went completely out of line there, but now he's back and tried to block out Dutzy and Spell. He's doing that again. Look at that. Spell and Dutzy
oh my gosh,
crashes into the wall.
Yeah, forcing these errors from the ROX players. ROX had a slight lead in points for a brief moment, but it looks like it's going to be yet another 1-2 finish here for Hero and C's. That's their 15th 1-2 finish in speed mode team matches so far in the preseason 1 of KDL.
I love how they split up the roles. Knock and C's playing sweeper roles so brilliantly well, while Hero and Navi were really trying to secure their positions to give their team a nice point advantage, and it worked out beautifully. A dominant 1-2.
I mean, this was just kind of textbook play here from C's, and you know, we can talk about Hero, just what a good runner he is. We've obviously talked about Knock both in speed mode and as the Knock Tech duo in item mode, but I think C's really deserves that spotlight from here on out because he's proving that the couple times he's done it in the past, it wasn't a fluke. This is something he's been working on here for his teammates on Aura.
This is exactly what we wanted to see from Aura in terms of consistency so far, because they are the more consistent team in speed, we have to say so far, when you compare them against ROX, because ROX face a lot more losses. As we take a look at the replay, this was the moment when C's pretty much was able to block out 3 members of ROX alone.
Yeah, well, and the way he does it is he's not always in the middle of the fight. Sometimes he's allowing them to pressure each other. He takes the outer line. Meanwhile, of course, this was a clip where Vega hitting that bump again, trying to get too close to the edge of the corner. But the way Cease plays this, the way that he weaves in between both of their lines, as he knows that one of them is going to try to actually stop him, right? Sweep him so that their teammate can get ahead. And Cease just says, all right, you guys fight amongst each other. I'll go ahead, get that 1-2 finish.
Yeah, and Dutsy tried to take the ideal line there at the end. You have to wonder, that definitely had to have come from the pressure that Cease was putting on him. But now we're ready for track number 2, World Tour New York Rally. Off we go into the track, picked by ROX themselves. We're seeing a lot of congestion right now. Players looking for the instant boosts.
Yeah, now at Terracotta Twister, I mean, that was never a track that ROX was good at. I mean, we can see it just the way it played out against Aura as well. So if you're a ROX racer right now, you just got to put that behind you and say this is the best of 7. There's still a long way to go. Let's see what we can do here. Vega almost colliding into the wall, but nice recovery to be able to come back and support his teammate at Dutsy.
Yeah, and Spell falling behind there a little bit. Maybe he wanted to go for a sweep, but it didn't really work out. And now we see, once again, pretty dominant positions for Aura. Dutsy and Vega the hope for ROX.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If Dutsy and Vega can keep on to the 2-3 some way as Vega starts to get pressured, Jung will always be able to try to find an opening to catch back up, either get that 2-3-4, maybe even help contest for that top spot. My eyes are there. I mean, does Aura once again make sure that Jung just cannot break out of 6th, 7th, 8th place?
Well, we are seeing Jung breaking out right now. He passed the sweepers of Aura, and now it's a 2-3-4 for ROX.
And this is what ROX is good at. This is how they win. It was very clear that on Terracotta Twister, Aura had studied that they had a plan. But right now, with Nock being the only one way far ahead, it's got to be Cease who can catch back up, try to break this 2-3-4 formation.
And he's trying to do that right now, but his first step is to get through Dutsy, but now Vega is playing that sweeper role pretty well up until now. He fell behind. Now it's just a 1-4-5 and a 2-3 for ROX.
If they finish right now, the Aura can win. They can block away the 2-3-5-7. If Hira can hold on to 5th place, Aura will be able to get the point advantage, and they get it once again.
Wow,
ROX
Aura
only to get 2-3-6-7. I mean, the comms must have been crazy on the side of Aura, just understanding if Nock can hold on to 1st place, they have a win condition.
That was so incredible how they managed to turn that around. The comms definitely paying off big time for Aura. You can tell that this is a team that never loses their focus right up until the end, winning by just a single point in the team score.
Great. I mean, just well played. And I mean, of course, this is all thanks to Nock being able to retake that 1st place position, but I think he must have always been aware that he needs to have one more opening there at the last straightaway to be able to get there, right? Trying to keep an eye on, can we win any other way? If not, I gotta be the one who gets in the 1st place. But just great understanding. You can already tell Jung's starting to get a little bit nervous here. I mean, yes, it is a best of 7, but you're already down 2-0. If Aura is able to get the next track as well, which was their pick over on Construction Chaos, I mean, they're gonna be over on set point here.
Definitely not what you want to see as ROX. You wanted to win speed no matter what, because you have a better chance of winning against Aura than in item mode. Sure, you won against Live Sandbox in item mode, but you've only done that once. We can't really count that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not reliable statistics, right? And you could have, prepared whatever you want in scrims, but again, we haven't seen it here on the stage. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the nerves are starting to pile up on ROX as they try to make a comeback here against Aura on Desert Construction Chaos. And the race begins. Meanwhile, just a quick shout out to Reboot's Looning, who still currently holds the record here in team matches. Of course, no longer in the playoffs, but curious to see ROX. I mean, this is not a track that they have a lot of good experiences on.
Definitely not, but Dutsy holding that 1 position is definitely what ROX wants, because Jung, he's going to find the angle to come into the top 4, while Vega, he can just play sweeper roll, knocking out Cease.
Yeah, now Aura, they also never had a victory. They've only played it once so far, but in the style that they have against ROX, in relativity, I have to say they do seem better primed, but my My curiosity is, what does C's have prepared for us here in the difficult sections as we go through the construction area? I mean, he's got to have ways to be able to block off the rest of ROX.
This is where collision happens very frequently because the track is super narrow. There's so many sharp 90-degree turns, and so far, we have seen some collisions happen, but no one completely lost their momentum here.
Yeah, but C's understanding right there in the little zigzag. Of course, a lot of racers just tending to decelerate, so he just stops to block Jung from potentially trying to instant boost past him, but Jung eventually able to build up enough speed to catch back up. Now, he's contending for Hero, so C's understands. You can already tell in the way that C's is playing that he wants to catch back up, provide support for Jung, leaving Navi to contest against Vega.
The big problem for ROX right now is Dutzy, the player that we want to see helping Jung get some of that 1-2 or at least that top 4 contention, is all the way in the back, and now ROX is behind 3 points overall. They need to keep the positional advantages. Jung with the first place.
Yeah, ROX trying to get in a decent position, but there's 3 players on his back, but now everyone from ROX catching up. Of course, as we enter the construction, everyone's going to be bunched up again, and there's so much potential for one of these players to get a hard stop there at the 90-degree zigzag to try to create chaos.
The 1-2 being maintained beautifully by Aura here. Jung is the only contender to try to break that, and Navi catches up and tackles Jung.
Oh man, once
Momentum
again,
lost.
this is it. You always expect people to decelerate, and if you're able to just get ahead of them, they cannot boost past you. They're in the zigzag. A great understanding here from Aura. Navi just sweeping as much as possible, even in the air, because they have the 1-2. Yet again, just a spin turn celebration from Hero because he's so far ahead. 3-0 lead here in speed mode.
Man, this combo and Aura is so good. This is what we expected from them, honestly, because their 1-2 combo has been super consistent. They maintained a 13 consecutive 1-2 victory so far, and they've even won 14 out of 17 rounds in speed mode total. So that means most of their victories did come from 1-2, and they are showing that again today.
Yeah, I mean, as I was mentioning before, I mean, a lot of those, again, is the Hero C's combo, and when it's not, it's C's and Nox. So C's clearly always having the potential to get into first place, but if Hero's ahead of him, Hero loves, you know, if he's able to have no competition, he's more than happy to try to set new records, and C's will play second fiddle if that can bring home the victory. But Aura, just a force to be reckoned in these team modes here, especially in speed mode, the way they're playing. Curious to see if they'll eventually climb back up and challenge one of the Titans, you know, in the KWANGDONGFREECS to live sandbox. We're not out of the woodwork yet, though. Even speed mode right now, still a best of 7. But if ROX wants to win, they gotta go for a 4-track consecutive win comeback.
A full reverse sweep in the best of 7. If they make that happen, then Jung is going to be very happy, and so are the fans, because we want to see Jung get to that ace match, but we are now ready for our track number 4, Mine Gold Rush. We start the race off in ROX's choice of track, and actually it's Aura Hero maintaining the best record of this track. So Aura, they have a 2-3-4 looking really good.
Yeah, curious to see if Hero once again will be able to just boost ahead, you know, without anyone contending for that top spot. Knock now in position to make sure he sets up Hero for that, but this is that secret to Aura's success. Spell understands that very well, regardless of what position he's usually playing. Right now, his mission is to make sure that Hero does not get out of his sights.
But the problem with that is Aura has such a huge positional advantage right now. Vega and Jung all the way down in 7th and 8th place. Not what you want to see, but this is a 2-lapper, so they do have a little bit of a breathing room to recover. Yeah,
good understanding from Spell here, though. He was trying to get ahead of Knock here on the last jump as well, just try to get another bump away from him, gain that momentum. Spell doing that continuously, but Knock finds a nice opening, does greet that a little bit, hits the corner, but C's now in position. This is just fine for Aura. They're used to this scenario where it's a 1-2 from Hero and C's yet again.
Yeah, this is a repeat of that strategy. Hero having such a big, sizable lead, maintaining that first position best he can, and now it's up to Knock and C's to try to sweep and take in at least that second position.
Yeah, Hero once again so far ahead, but ROX, they got to start to consider, do we just go for the 2-3-4 here?
Look at the lines!
Yeah, I mean, they have a good positioning, and the way ROX plays that, his teammates actually pressure in a way that it opens up the inner line for Dutzy to be able to just really drift through.
Wow.
Now it's a good setup from ROX, but everyone's still bunched up away from Hero. So now the question is, ROX, can you get 2-3-4 or 2-3-5-7?
Yeah, Dutzy's still maintaining that lead because he still took the tightest drifts ever and it worked out for him so far uncontested. But now he is contested by Knock and Vega coming in.
Vega can get up. No, does he actually lose his second place as well? Nox gonna get it right there at the end. In the last U-turn into the 90-degree. A great reversal. Another 1-2 finish. I mean, absolutely incredible. You gotta start to imagine that even the Freaks and Sandbox are reevaluating Aura, because if they're winning most of their speed mode tracks with a 1-2 finish, I mean, you just simply cannot beat that.
This team is the team of 1-2 punches. Hero, he makes it so easy for his team to get that 1-2 because look at that. He set a new track record. He is a god at maintaining such high distances between himself and the rest of the players. And we got to give credit to the teamwork of Aura as well. Navi, Nog, and C's being that sweeper, being able to buy that time for Hero.
Yeah, and while we've obviously been praising especially Nock and C's a lot here today, I think it's worth mentioning Navi as well. If he's always somewhere in the middle of the pack, that's another point that Aura can rely on, where they can now just focus on either Hero or C's getting that first place finish and really revolving their win conditions around having the #1 spot. I mean, Navi rarely really always getting pushed down to something like 8th place. He's always contending somewhere in the middle.
Yep.
But that's going to be a quick ending to the speed mode, and now ROX, they once again have to rely on this unreliable item mode record that they have.
Yeah, Plansy coming in. He did look a little bit dazed there. Maybe he's strategizing, thinking about all the different new meta stuff they're going to pull out today, or perhaps even nervous because now a lot of pressure is on Plansy to be that item ace. ROX needs to repeat a miracle turnaround in item mode. They managed to do it against Live Sandbox, and if they do it against Aura, who is another great item mode team, having that tech being swapped in, it's going to be a big story.
Yeah, there he is on screen, Tech. And here's the thing, you mentioned Plansy. He's got to really be able to showcase what they've cooked up on the side of ROX, but you're going up against Tech and Nock, right? The Nock-Tech duo here over on the side of Aura. I mean, what can you do? Fans saying, Aura, we'll see you again. Imagining that they'll get the victory, they'll get to continue to come back to the stage here in the playoffs.
Yeah, and right now we can see the item track list once again. We see Magma Cavern being prioritized by ROX, which is a track that I'm not sure why they picked, to be honest. They don't have a stellar win rate on it.
Yeah, no, they like to pick it. They've always liked picking it, but they also just don't have any wins actually over on Magma Cavern. But we also need to remember they barely have any wins in item mode to begin with, right? So
yeah.
how much can we really rely here on the statistics? But if they've been picking it, clearly that's a track that they think they have a good plan on, that they've been practicing. They're once again prioritizing it. The question is, I mean, can you finally showcase it today?
ROX's best track was Cogwheel Crush with a 100% win rate on 2 matches, but it's been banned out. And now we had a fan for Aura, of course, believing in a win for the item mode. And why wouldn't you as a fan for Aura? They are great at item mode, but now we are ready for item track #1, My Magma Cavern.
And item mode begins. Aura currently with the 4-0 speed win. Feeling very comfortable in this battle against ROX.
Tech, the item ace, the only one that actually slowed down to pick up the double items. No one from ROX did that. I do find that very interesting because ROX, they could be taking this with the strategy of coming in, taking it fast, getting the positional advantages rather than the diverse items.
Okay, so Aura already just cycling through an Angel here just to try to keep up, but also trying to fish for the other items that they might have. Ooh. Now, this is my big question. If ROX is aware of that, this is one of those tracks, we even actually saw it on Sunday, where you can, or on Wednesday rather, where you can actually get a good setup towards the end there, right as the bridge ends, with a good water balloon, good barricade, something like that, where the shields will actually come in handy. So ROX, I mean, are you keeping good track of what Aura is cycling through?
Yeah, the Angels are definitely going to be key in their final lap as all of those offensive capabilities come out. We're already seeing some of that repetition, water bombs being used, knocking out a player. Dutzy shields out that water wisp.
Yeah, Dutzy just trying to stay in the lead. Dutzy currently with a Magnet and Nitrous as well. So with that boost, he's gonna not mind giving up first place. He's happy to stay in second and third. He'll always have an option to try to slingshot forward. Aura once again cycling through an extra Angel. They're only keeping that one on Nock. So ROX, I mean, if you can try to pile on, you've got some items that you want to work with, this is a good chance to set up here in lap 3.
And a very interesting strategy right now for Seas, who had only a shield and a booster. He's going to use that right away because he did fall behind in positions. Now, it's Jung and Dutzy trying to fight with Hero. Hero going for that Water Wisp, blocked out by the Angel.
Yeah, the Rockets are starting to come in as well. They've got quite a few, and that's going to just lock up Hero, but Jung gets hit by a Water Bomb himself. Sees now with a Water Bomb. Lightning slows everybody down, but Aura, they're going to be able to speed ahead. A barricade not going to matter with that last Angel coming in. They've been holding on to that. They kept making it look like they were cycling through their Angels, and they just saved that one for the last bit.
That Angel blocked out a Water Bomb and a barricade. Absolute brilliant usage of that Angel, getting 2 offensive items out with 1. And it's going to be Seas who manages to secure a item track win for Aura here.
Man, I mean, I was wondering, ROX actually trying to get a good read here, imagining that if they can start to pile on, a lot of their offensive items there in lap 3, they'll be able to, try to power through whatever they have. But Aura understanding that all they needed was 1 Angel. They actually overtake that first place right before with the triple missiles, and then they're able to just Angel through.
Yeah, and at the end there, that lightning striking was absolutely devastating because it slows down your whole team. At that point, your only chance of recovery is the magnet, which we did see coming in from ROX. However, it just wasn't enough because Aura had such a good teamwork, and they made sure that Seas did not lose his momentum.
Well, ROX backs up against the wall, see if they can finally get a single track win. They might be here for an 8-0 shutout. If not, as we go into track 2 of item mode between the 2 teams, it's Glacier, Polar, Half-Pipe.
In our round number 2 in item mode of lower bracket semifinals, Tech once again going for his trusty old 2-item strategy.
Yeah, he's going to cycle through the EMP. Don't need that right now. Just trying to see what else he can get. Gets a second magnet. Now, of course, this is one of those tracks where you do have that upper floor here on the boost if you want to. And we've seen teams where one person boosts, the other magnets forward, and both of you are able to kind of take that shortcut on the upper side.
Now we see our players taking it very slow. No one took the shortcut, and everyone is just rocking by side because this is a 3-lapper, right? And right now we're going to see a lot of water bombs and whips being traded. Magnets are the ones that are being held on to.
Yeah, Plansy and Tech both holding on to a water bomb. Wouldn't be surprised if both of them cycle through that. We're going to actually see it come out right now. Slow spell down, but he's not going to get caught up in it just yet. Meanwhile, everyone saving up their magnets. They want to wait to see, do we save double magnets? Do we cycle one out to try to go for an extra boost or something like that? I mean, curious, because you're going to have to start considering, do I use that right now or not? We've actually got double lightning on the side of Hero as well. He's going to use one right now just to slow everyone down, but I got to imagine he saves the other one for lap 3.
Definitely. Right now, Hero still definitely putting emphasis on that lightning, seeing a lot of value there. They're trying to bait out the Angels from the side of ROX as much as possible before that 3rd lap, but ROX, they do have one on Dutzy still.
Yeah, we just saw there Jung trying to avoid a potential water bomb, but it doesn't come through, so he's just going to try to cash back up to the rest of his team. We're going to enter lap 3. Already a boost and magnet over on the side of Nock, and then his faithful duo Tech has the Angel and the magnet. I gotta imagine Nock and Tech, they might look to both go onto that upper floor. At that point, ROX, are you ready to instantly latch on with your magnets from the bottom floor?
We've seen that strategy before, but the water bomb, it's a 3-man. That's huge.
Yeah, it just lands right away, and while Hero's able to get to the upper line, Tech, his Angel didn't come through in time. Now Hero has to get up to first place, but he doesn't have any items. He's only going to have one chance to get an item here to make a difference, but it's not going to be enough. Nock finds out. He does catch up with a magnet right now. Can they hold on to it? Sees and Nock just blocking for...
Oh, from nowhere, but it's Nock who manages to hold on to that lead and finishes in first place for his team.
Oh man, Seas actually gets pulled back just a bit there towards the end, but Nock still there to cross the finish line. Jung actually getting, his magnet pulling himself back a little bit, not able to keep that straightaway speed gain. And it's going to be another track here for Aura.
You have to see the relief on the faces on the members of Aura there, because 2-3-4 for ROX. If Nock didn't have that position, it could have been a set going over to ROX, and that's definitely dicey if you're Aura. because you don't want to give that hope to ROX. You want to continue on this full stomp domination and keep their morale low.
Yeah, remember what their taunt was at the beginning? Do you want to get crushed or do you want to just lose, right? You want to get beaten up or you want to just lose? And clearly right now, Aura saying you don't have a choice. We are actually just going to crush you and try to go for a clean sweep in both modes. See how some of the highlights pan out here for track number 2, but I mean, we see there at the end, oh,
Seas,
oh, this was lap
180.
2, yeah, just a spin turn missile as well. We've seen that a couple times, but again, I mean, that prevents Dusty from being able to catch up and cycle through his items in time.
And this is where things were really crazy because we thought Jung would make it, but he got slowed down by the magnet, so he decelerated, and it gave room for Seas to finish that one off. Or Knock.
Yeah, Knock eventually gets through. So Knock actually, C's actually taking all the aggro, and we've talked about that before on item mode as well, where, you know, if you have 2 people up front, one of them, your role is to try to draw out that aggro so the other person can just kind of coast through. That's exactly what happens here for Aura. We'll see ROX. Now, this was your next pick in World Tour London Night. Can you make a difference as we get into track number 3? Aura currently 6 tracks in a row, victories on their side as they race against ROX Esports here in the playoffs of the first preseason of KDL.
ROX, they definitely don't want to lose here in London Night and go to a match point for Aura in track number 4 because they have not much chances left at this point. London Night is a track they have a victory record in, so hopefully they're able to relive that moment and find the good strategies.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is one where the boost, actually, we've seen a couple victories purely off of the boost coming in towards the last corner. Of course, you know, if the opponents do have magnets, you're going to have to be careful. Now, this is what I was talking about. As you cross that ferry here, there are these 2 bumps that you want to watch out for when you use your boost to try to maintain that acceleration. And then, of course, it's a 90-degree turn where you don't want to actually swing out too far if you use the magnet yourself.
You see Plan Z starting to get slowed down a bit by the missile, but Dutzy is quite far ahead. Aura, they managed to knock him down with a beautifully timed missile there. And now, we are currently looking at 3 to 4 magnets, 3 angels, definitely some good items for both teams.
Yeah, so C's, once again, right now, if he stays the way he is, he's just playing aggro, right? He's just happy to draw out any of the targeting coming in from ROX. Hero actually just trying to make sure C's can stay far, far ahead. And I think this, if anything, this actually puts more of that crosshair onto C's, but C's just has a shield and an angel. Really, who's set up for the victory here is Hero. He's holding on to the double boost. He's not using any of them. He's meaning to use these towards the last corners.
C's is also holding on to his shield and angel. He hasn't swapped it out for any other items. Now, we do see Hero falling back quite a bit. Now it's only C's in the front, up with 3 members of ROX.
Yeah, he actually uses one early to try to catch up, and he's going to get dragged back behind. Now Knock way up front with an angel, but Spell just trying to boost forward, and he's actually acting as that bull anchor for his teammates. Jung, can he stay ahead? No, he gets magneted behind, but a nice block from Planzy, as Planzy actually gets bumped across the finish line himself. ROX Esports, finally a track victory for themselves in item mode.
Yeah, I really love the maneuver at the end, dodging out the barricade nicely. There wasn't even a need for an angel to be used in order to collide with it without any penalty. And honestly, ROX definitely felt a lot more in control in this track, showing why they picked it as their second choice, and finally putting up some fighting chance, a score on the board against Aura.
Yeah, and I think a big important thing is ROX clearly understanding what the setup here was from Aura, right? Just making sure that Hero actually isn't ever in contention with the fact that Hero's happy to let his teammate C's get way far ahead. I think ROX had a good understanding of, okay, let's just make sure Hero doesn't get anywhere close to the top spot, and they had a chance. Now, here's a fan coming over from Kartrider Rush Plus cheering for Jung and Vega, 2 racers who have now hopped over to the new universe of Kartrider Drift. Well, they're keeping their hopes alive for now as they are trailing 1-2, trying to win this item mode to go to an ace match for their speed ace. Jung, we'll see if he can get there as we enter Mind Motherload.
We begin in our track number 4 of item mode here in the My Mother load, picked by Aura themselves. We're seeing a lot of water bombs. I want to see how they throw this one.
Yeah, we've seen some crazy water bombs, right? It seems like those are, obviously the tried and true item, very traditional. You're used to seeing them, so you don't expect too much from it. But yeah, I mean, again, this track, very narrow positions, like you mentioned before, Peter. So if you really save them for the right time and the other team has been cycling through their angels like crazy, they're going to get caught by one of them.
Yeah, but now Nog maintaining the lead with the double shield, looking to draw out the aggro. He does pop one shield there to block out the water, or the missile there. And honestly, I love the strategy from Aura. They keep repeating this. When a player picks up a shield, they go to the front to absorb the aggro.
Yeah, just good setups. Meanwhile, we did see Dutzy just taking the outer course there just for an extra item. Instantly catches back up with the instant boost, but he will get slowed down by a banana. Now entering lap 2 of 3.
Now we see Planzy in the lead with double magnet, and the Angel going to be popped preemptively to dodge out the water bomb. And now we see a lot of just magnets and boosters being held across the board. That does seem to be the major meta here in My Mother load.
Yeah, and again, there's a lot of drops, there's a lot of jumps here on My Mother load, so the magnets can do some extra damage compared to what they usually might be used for. Jung just choosing to try to go for an extra item there. Just going to get a banana for his trouble, so he cycles through that right away.
Now we see a huge positional lead for ROX right now, holding a 1-2-3-5. And we are moving into the third lap. Every single player dodging out that barricade. Beautiful. Yeah,
Tech tries to speed ahead to get into position for a setup. Now he is going to be in contention that entire time with a single boost on his side. Meanwhile, C's with a magnet and boost himself. Now the question is, C's Tech as he gets slowed down. Now the question is, C's, do you just have to try to get ahead and make sure you slingshot in, or are you still playing aggro to try to set up for knock here?
Yeah, both the first and second place players got targeted by the Magnus being slowed down. Now it's Planzy speeding across, and Angel was popped preemptively, and he's holding on to a water bomb in first position.
Yeah, just sends that out right now, but Sees and Planzy, a bit of mind games here with the Magnets for each other. Planzy actually happy to just play aggro and slow them down as Nog actually gets stopped! He gets knocked out, a KO with that missile.
That missile completely stopped all momentum there. Planzy able to speed across and once again bring a score on the board for ROX, tying it up 2-2.
What a play, the missile right at the end as well. I mean, it looked like Spell might have been in a good position himself to try to get through, but it was actually just going, or Planzy only on his own rather, but it was actually just going to be the missile to really seal the deal here as Nok gets hit as he's trying to overtake in the last couple meters.
It's just so incredible to me right now that ROX, despite such a rough start to their day, is able to find the comeback angle here in the item mode against Aura. Another excellent team. And honestly, you have to wonder, is ROX an item mode team now?
I mean, maybe. You got to find your answer, right? If it's not going to be reliable in speed, maybe you have to switch over. Now, it's too early to say for the time being, but clearly, I think they're showing better understanding. I mean, we can see it here. Planzy just playing to try to set up Spell as that aggro, but they actually intentionally do this because they know they have that extra missile they've been seeing, keeping track of how Aura's been cycling through. You know that in that last uphill, most teams are going to want to prioritize the magnets and boosts as well. So just hiding that missile from under the hill, and then it's just really pops it. And a lot of the Aura fans just hoping that they play again tomorrow, right? They're hoping that they get that victory. But right now, ROX is fighting back tooth and nail. Yeah,
the hands were literally held together in prayer to see Aura tomorrow, the fans said. And hopefully, here in track number 5, we're getting into World Tour Gangnam Street. Will Aura or ROX be able to continue their lead?
And they're off. Aura now the one losing momentum, so curious to see, if ROX is able to just keep up, or if Aura will have to find a rejuvenated pattern here in item mode. Now all eyes are on Tech. Of course, the item ace coming in for Aura.
Holding on to those sneaky water bombs. It actually attempted to get dodged out by Planzy, but it hits both members of ROX, and Banana was able to knock out a member of Aura.
Yeah, just a little bit of early aggression here. Now, of course, as we get through the rest, one of the wider tracks here overall in Kart Rider, so the water bombs barricade's not going to do too much trouble. Obviously, you can try to get a really sick timing on it, but that's just going to come down to comms from each other as well.
And now we see Tech holding onto that shield, so that's why he took that first place lead, but now they are falling behind because the members of ROX are also fighting back for their positions. The shields are still being held by Aura.
Yeah, you know, Aura, it seems like Tech intentionally always trying to fall behind to the middle of the crowd just so he has a better understanding of what to call here for the side of Aura, making sure one of his teammates can try to be the one crossing the finish line. As you mentioned, he's the one holding on to the Angels, the defensive support as well. So he's in no rush to try to cross the finish line himself. He just wants to be aware of what the situation is here across the track. As John, a little bit of a corner cutting there with the instant boost to just try to stay in contention.
Yep, and now we see the Angels being cycled through for Aura, moving in to the third lap. We are almost there right now as we take a look at the items. Not cast the Lightning. I love this strategy from Aura. It puts a lot of pressure on ROX here. They did not manage to, you know, use an Angel against that because they didn't have one.
Well, and that's what you get by using that Lightning right as you enter lap 3. You understand that they clearly don't have a shield or Lightnings here. I mean, can you really imagine that they're saving it if they, have, more than 2 or something like that? So now Aura with a good understanding that you can try to go for these aggressive setups here in the last lap.
Now we have C's far in the lead, Jung trying to catch up, but a lot of players are holding on to their magnets for the time being. The barricade.
Yeah, the barricade. It's things like that. Once again, everyone from ROX gets hit by him. Now, Dutsy does hold on to a UFO, but there's 2 players ahead of everyone from ROX. Can they take down all the members of Aura right now?
He's looking for that booster. Hold on. He's got a shield to combo with it as well. Knock gets knocked back, and it's now C's who maintains that lead with the shield, comboed with the booster. Aura coming back with a win. Now it's 3-2 against ROX.
And I think a lot of this comes down to that Lightning being used as they enter lap 3. Just really fishing for information, gets a good understanding. All right, well, you're still not using any shields. You still don't have your Angels. So we'll just make sure that we constantly slow you down in a group. We can get through any of the barricades or water bombs because we have double Angels. And Aura with a nice win.
I would definitely assume maybe you would want to hold on to that Lightning till a moment that matters, and sometimes that could be near the end of lap number 3. But as you said, Will, it doesn't have to be always near that, last 500 meters. You can plan things out in advance to try to fish out the enemy's Angels, or if they don't have it, actually use it in advance. And that's what really makes Aura a good diverse item mode team as we take a look at the replay here. Tech with the water bomb and Plancy.
Yeah, Plancy gets bumped into it, yeah. A little bit. Not sure if intentionally set up by C's or not, but either way, a bit of a combo play there for the water bomb.
I wonder if the banana had a role in that. I mean, probably not,
Maybe,
but it just like coincidentally happened at the same time that it just looks really comical.
Yeah, I mean, you can get some funny moments here in item mode for sure. A little bit of a different flavor of Kart Rider Drift. But right now, it's going to be match point for Aura as they lead 3-2 in item mode. They already won speed mode ROX. Can they keep their tournament lives alive here on Glacier Icebreaker Pass?
Off we go in round number 6 of item mode. So far, we have Aura holding that 1-2 position. This is going to be a 3-lapper. Finally, we see Spell matching what Tech is doing. Right away in the beginning, he goes for 2 items.
Yeah, and again, I mean, in the very beginning, here's the thing. You're always going to have a decent catch-up mechanic in item mode here in Kart Rider Drift. So you want to prioritize your probability of being able to cycle through, get the items you want, always be able to save up at least one crucial one.
Ooh, Jong.
Yeah, just a bit of a spin turn to try to get an attack, but he actually pays for his troubles himself and is just going to have to restock up. But a nice barricade. Now, again, it can play a good role here. We just saw C's having to power through that one.
And I saw a sneaky banana to the right as Planty was coming into the tunnel. So that is now a point to watch out for. You never know when a player's going to fall for that because they could go to the right to avoid collisions and get punished.
Yeah, again, that tunnel is really the focal point here for Icebreaker Pass. The rest of the track fairly straightforward. Of course, you have a couple areas where you can drop off, but that rarely happens here in item mode.
And I feel like Aura are having so much success finding the Lightnings, and they manage to always connect it onto ROX when they're unable to defend against it.
Yeah, and once again, I mean, Aura, double Angels on Tech, so he decides, well, no one else on my team has any, so I'll hold on to both of these. You guys just cycle through to make sure you're set up. Tech now cycling one for that boost, but meanwhile, everyone else on the side of ROX, they're only focused on prioritizing the magnets and boost. Now, if ROX wants to win with this type of arsenal, they're gonna have to use these right before they enter the tunnel or right as they exit. You cannot try to use it during the tunnel because it's so hard to overtake because it's a very narrow pathway.
It's all serious business here now in lap number 3. I was excited to see another sneaky banana in the tunnel, and that is going to play a role. However, Tech is holding on to the Angel, and you look at the items. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, but no, that Angel is going to find no use. Meanwhile, we do have a UFO from Jung as well, so I imagine Spell, okay, he's going to purposely fall behind. This is going to slow down Tech, but here's the thing, he's already been set up as the anchor pull for the rest of Aura. Now, ROX, can they try to catch up? Dutsy's already used all his items.
Getting slowed down.
The UFO! One more comes in play from ROX as ROX. We have Spell coming in, tying it up 3-3.
Man, you rarely see a UFO coming in so clutch near the end there, but that was exactly what happened. Tech got completely stopped out of his momentum, and ROX able to capitalize that so beautifully. And as you said, we are 3-3, and we weren't sure, this being a best of 7, if we will go all the way down to that round 7, but here we are.
Yeah, you know, Peter, we were talking about it actually before the broadcast as well, and I know you asked me, I mean, who do you favor? And I kept saying, you know, maybe ROX has something, and you were like, I don't know, the stats don't say so, but this is why you can't help but imagine ROX will never go down that easily. There's something about this team.
The
right?
new ROX.
Yeah, I mean, the new ROX, but also just slightly unconventional, right? They break the standards, they break the convention of what has been working, how you're supposed to win, you know, your matches here in Kartrider Drift at the KDL, and they're finding their own way to stay alive.
They told us their growth never stops, and so far they've definitely shown that here in the item mode against Aura. But now we are ready for our track number 7, Factory Brody's Glue.
Match point for Aura as the race begins. Meanwhile, ROX trying to keep themselves alive, try to get to that ace match to see if you can once again bank on your hero Jung, bringing home the victory.
You definitely want to see it. If you're a fan of KDL at this point, not even a ROX fan, because if you're this close to an ace match, you may as well see it, even if it's a little bit tougher for the players and the teams.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sorry for Aura, but man, what a story it would be if Jung is able to come into the KDL, right? Swaps over from the KRPL, starts to set these insane records as an individual in these ace matches. It would be one hell of a way to start a new career here in KDL.
And even if Jung doesn't win the ace match, that also has a lot to say about Aura now, because if you can beat Jung in the ace match, you're technically stronger than Liv Sandbox.
Yeah, I mean, you know, with the law of transposition there, I mean, that would put Aura ahead. We'll see if that comes to play. Just a bit of a banana. Looked like maybe he wasn't really spotting that ahead of time. Tried to dodge it in the last second. Now Brody's Gloom, a little unique here in the item mode in that it is one of the 2 lappers, a bit of a longer track for the item mode tracks.
Look at Dutsy. Look how far he is with that shield right now and a sneaky little banana in his pocket.
Yeah, well, Cease does have a magnet, and of course a little bit of a catch-up mechanic here coming into play for Kartrider Drift as Dutsy just slows down. Doesn't want to get too far ahead and get blindsided by something like a magnet. Meanwhile, Cease just being anchored on too by somebody to catch back up. Dutsy now with double shield, he's got to be able to cycle through one of these. Yeah, he's going to get a missile for his troubles.
Missile is definitely going to be a huge thing here because Jung doesn't have a shield and no Angel on the side of ROX. This is looking like he's going to use it here.
Yeah, but one more Angel, another still in the bank for Knock as well. As we get towards the later part of the track here, Aura once again back in the lead. Hero's going to boost ahead. He has that shield, and then the magnet comes in from C's. But Hero actually going to be blocking C's just a bit. Meanwhile, Tech, can he block any other aggression? Not many items in play. Oh, man. C's crosses the finish line. ROX unable to catch back up in the last corner. And it's going to be Aura who wins both speed and item mode to stay alive and to move on to the lower bracket finals of KDL Preseason 1.
It was actually the obstacle of Brody's Gloom that had stopped Spell. And to be honest, even if that didn't happen, it might have been Aura's win still anyways, because here they showed such a prowess, holding that 1-2 coming in. look at that, almost a full 1.5 second difference between Spell and Seas, and the bottom 3 players, they all retired even.
Yeah, I mean, if Spell hadn't gotten, trapped there by an obstacle, I mean, maybe, it would have come down to, are they aware of Spell catching back up? But Aura, like you said, they still had 2 members to cross the finish line first. Great showing from Aura. It's a shame that Jung's ace match story ends here for preseason 1. But ROX, I mean, I think, if anything, this is once again just proof that they do need to improve across the board in terms of overall teamwork and collaboration. Oh, you can just see Vega trying to encourage Dutzy a little bit there. I mean, obviously, everyone on ROX, they want to encourage each other, but it's also, it hurts, right? You were so close to get to another ace match here.
Yeah, and now we see once again coming in the Korean. What is the #1 MBTI? AURA.
Well, today it was Aura, just a great showing. I mean, they 4-0'd ROX in speed mode. I think once again proving that they are a monster over on speed mode.
Spell,
yeah,
no.
Spell gets hit by the barricade there, popping up. But even without that, like you said, if you wanted to dodge it, you would have had to basically follow behind the 2 racers ahead of you. That's a rough one. Well, all the Aura fans who wanted to come watch them again tomorrow, they already reserved tickets here in the stadium. They already made sure their train back home was reserved for tomorrow. They get their wishes granted. Meanwhile, Jung, I mean, he's miffed, and it's not just him, right? I think overall the team played a lot better today. It wasn't just the Jung show, but it just wasn't enough against the incredible, impeccable teamwork of Aura.
You definitely feel for Jung. I feel like if Jung lost here today in the ace match, instead of losing in the item mode and the speed mode to Aura, he would have had some acceptance to that, right? Because ace match, he at least got to play it, and he maybe got outskilled in an opponent 1v1, but he didn't get that chance today.
No chance for Jung to try to prove himself as an individual racer once again. But that ends the story of ROX Esports for preseason 1 of the KDL. Meanwhile, Aura continuing to improve, continuing to challenge the top dogs as they now take down one of the pro teams in ROX Esports. They await to see who they will face next between Live Sandbox and the Guangdong Freaks.
Honestly, Will, I think if I was either Live Sandbox or Guangdong Freaks, I'm nervous. Because this Aura, they definitely look pretty good. I mean, item modes, sure, we can say they showed weakness today against ROX. They weren't as impeccable. But at the same time, this is a new ROX. They're growing. We don't know how good they are at item mode. Maybe ROX is the best item mode team now for all we know.
Could be. I mean, obviously what the teams are cooking up in their meantime in their scrims, we can't be privy to all of that. But I also wonder, Aura, I'm curious to find out if Aura wants to face Sandbox again or the Freaks, right? Because they did beat the Freaks here on Wednesday. Now, they did lose to Sandbox prior to that. But, of course, I think Aura's just improved overall, so I think they would be happy to face off against either. Maybe even, they would want the chance to challenge Sandbox again to prove that they can take down all the pro teams one by one.
That would take a really high level of confidence and belief in your teammates, but honestly, for Aura, I wouldn't be too surprised if they had that in them so far in the KDL Preseason 1. They've definitely established their history now as one of the amateur teams that can absolutely stand up to the professional teams.
Yeah.
Not only that, beating one today in ROX.
Yeah, and they beat ROX. Again, they beat the Guangdong Freaks in the last team match of the round robin over back on Wednesday. Now, I mean, they await. So basically, who they'll play is the loser of the next match, which is Guangdong Freaks versus Live Sandbox. The winner there already moves on to the grand finals. Meanwhile, the loser will have to play another race against Aura tomorrow. So a lot of fans, the Aura fans, happy that they'll get to come back to the stadium tomorrow. But Aura, they'll have to, sit by and watch the next match as well. Try to figure out who's their opponent. What have they been practicing? Do they have any new builds, both in speed and item mode?
And that's definitely their kind of like reward now for winning. They can sit down and watch the upcoming matches and just really be studying with some like cheerful snacks and drinks because you want to celebrate your win on a good note, right?
Sure.
And then for ROX,
I mean,
completely
you're
different
out.
atmosphere.
Yeah, you're out of the tournament. I think it hurts, and you can see how much it meant to the players as well. Even though we've been saying it's just the preseason 1, right? The official season kickoff of KDL hasn't come yet. It's coming at the end of the year. But for the players, I mean, every race they get to run on stage counts so much, right? For them to prove themselves and their team as well. And I think for ROX, the reason it probably hurts the most is because they have been trying to improve, and they've shown that. But they are not quite at a point where anyone is counting them as a reliable team, and I think that's what they want to prove to themselves and their fans, maybe even their opponents. And now they've lost all their chances for Preseason 1. They will have to wait until Preseason 2 to get another chance.
Perhaps the most shocking part of today was that ROX actually lost 0-4 against Aura in speed mode.
Yeah.
You have to assume that, you know, with the way they were improving, especially with Dutzy trying to hold that first position for Jung to later catch up, that they would have a formidable performance in speed mode as well, but they just didn't.
But I think that's what Aura showed everyone, was the answer to that was they oftentimes just kept Jung tied up in the back. I mean, Jung was kind of this jack of all trade, or master of all trades, quite frankly, on the side of ROX. And, you know, we saw Aura say, well, you know what? We'll just never let you escape. You thought you were sweeping against us, but you're trapped in here with me, right, down in 6th, 7th, and 8th place. We rarely saw Jung really having that, you know, resurgence in the lap 2s or the later half of each track where we suddenly see him shoot back forward, try to contest for number 1. We didn't see those moments today, and it's because Aura was so good about their role division where Hero or C's kind of left up to really take that number 1 spot and run with it, and then C's or Nock would play second fiddle, support in the middle of the pack, and then one of them, usually Navi or Nock, would be the one responsible for saying, well, you just target Jung. Just make sure he never gets back into the top 4.
That's the kryptonite for ROX here in KDL Preseason 1. Just hold that first position, keep sweeping, and make the race chaotic for the members of ROX, and make sure at all costs that you do not give Jung that ace match.
Yeah, well, yes, that's very important. That's what we've learned absolutely in this matchup against between Aura rather and ROX Esports. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that of course was match 1. But you know, as we're kind of wrapping up what happened so far, we do have another match as well. So if you're kind of watching and waiting to find out if there's anything else, later on, we'll be going to a commercial break. That's when you can go to the bathroom and everything. But stick with us for now, and then, of course, we'll be coming back with match 2. But just to talk about Aura and ROX just a bit longer as we have a bit of time, I'm now curious. I mean, Aura, the number of 1-2 finishes they have, I think out of the 4 today, it was also 3 of those. So that's now 17 total here in Preseason 1. And if you're winning your tracks that handily, right, you're not having to rely on, you know, these crafty positionings like the 2-3-5-7. Not to say that that's any worse, but,
Right.
I mean, 1-2 is just much more commanding. I mean, even Freaks and Sandbox, you got to be a little worried, right?
Yeah, and I feel like Sandbox and Freaks, they're definitely teams that have shown very consistent performance so far in the speed mode in the KDL preseason, and I think that's what makes it such an exciting matchup now against Aura, a team that likes to go for 1-2. You know that Guangdong Freaks and Live Sandbox, no way they're just going to let you have that. They're also going to match that style. They're also going to go for the 1-2. They have their own great sweepers, so it's literally going to be rivalry match coming in.
Yeah, well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will get to find out who wins between Guangdong Freaks and Live Sandbox.